All right, let's take a look at number 4.12. And so 4.12 says we're going to get all these employees' information from a text file. So last names, hours worked, hourly wage. And then we're going to write a program that takes that file name and prints then a report of the wages paid to the employees for the given period. Report should be in tabular format with the appropriate header. On each line should contain, on the output, employee's name, the hours worked, and the wages paid. So, kind of gives you an example of what it should look like. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to look at this data and see how it's organized. Okay, so it takes name and takes pay rate and number of hours, or number of hours and pay rate, I guess. All right. This guy makes more money. I want his pay salary. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, well, we're going to tell us who you are. And that way if we pull this program out or we do something else with it, we could do that pretty easily. Oh, excuse me there. All right. So, get file. Now, a couple of ways we can do that. If we know that that file name's never going to change, we would probably just put it in programmatically. But we might need that file to be altered or take different ones, so we're just going to do a file name equals input. Enter the file name. And so now we have a file name to put in it. So our next piece then is we're going to open file. So input, just a quick easy one. You could use X if you wanted to, but I like input. It tells us what we're doing. Equals open. And then we can put in file name, comma. So we're opening it, but we're reading it only. We're not changing anything to it. That's great. All right. So it wants us to print across there name, hours, and total pay. A lot of different ways we can format this. Hours. Name, hours, total pay. So we could format it like that if we wanted to, using the tab notation. And it's going to say, hey, I can't open that file because it doesn't really exist, right? So if I want to check this out, I can put in a comment tag there, and then I can run it just to see if I can make it work. And then it does sort of, oh, did I do something really dumb there? Sorry. And so if I move that over, you can see I actually made, and it's going to be weird there, but it has them in columns because I can use that as a tab. Interesting, it shows up in red. All right, so I have my first part of that done. I've opened my file. Better move that back. Well, now I need to get into that file and actually look at it. So input, we got that part. So we may need to figure out some way then to get data in there. All right. We know we've got multiple lines in there. When I say multiple lines, that usually means we're going to do some kind of a loop. In this case, Python gives us some abilities. So for line in input, So in other words, we're going to come back up here and strip a line off each time. Just to separate, we might call it data. We could call it payroll info, whatever you wanted to call it. And I know that I want to split that up a little bit. So I'm going to split it up with the line.split. And so since I was thinking of data, I probably should finish that out. I can then take in at the different positions. So I could say, I believe, if I look at that file, name is first. So let's do name equals data. And we're going to do it in position 0. So 0. So the first position in there becomes name. Our second piece of code then is hours. So hours equals data position 1. And then finally our pay, but it's really not total pay. It'd be like pay rate or per hour equals data, and we get that from the third position. It's the third position. We're calling it number 2. All right. So now you've got each piece of those for each hour, but we need to do a couple of more interesting things. So we know that we want to work with hours and this per hour. Well, we need to convert them to some kind of numerical data. So I could do int. If I know that those are all in integers, it might be better to do a float, because we don't know that that data is not 10.5 or something odd. Put that in parentheses. So I'm converted hours to float. I've also then got to convert this to some kind of data, and float probably makes as much sense as anything else. So then I can calculate your pay then is equal to hours times per hour. And then I can print out all of these items. So if I remember correctly, it wanted me to print, so it has a name. You want, I think it says hours, if I remember right, and pay. It doesn't care about per hour. So now we're going to print those out. So we do have some formatting, and there's a ton of different ways to format that. So I showed one method, the book shows another method. So this should run and work, hopefully. So I actually have it over in a Python file, and I ran it because I've got the text data there. That's kind of what we're looking at. If I go into the data file itself and I change something here, so let's change this guy's pay rate to $1,000 an hour. File save. And now we run it again. Data.txt. Holy cow. I'd like that to be my pay for 5 hours. So what we've left you with is some formatting and some cleanup here on exercise 4.12.